We've all admired someone at some point, someone who stands tall amid life's storms, someone who doesn't crumble under pressure, someone who holds their ground even when the world seems to fall apart. We look at them and think they must have been born with something special, some innate resilience that sets them apart. But that's a misconception. The truth is, no one is born strong. Strength is not a gift from life. It is built bit by bit, in silence, through pain, and by rising again and again. True strength doesn't shout, doesn't boast. It lives quietly in how someone pulls themselves out of bed in the morning, knowing the day ahead will be hard. It's in the sweat dripping onto the gym floor, in the lonely hours when no one is watching, in the times you turn down temptation to remain committed to your discipline. These things are not glamorous, but they form the foundation of real strength. Imagine a soldier. He doesn't become brave by putting on a uniform. He becomes brave through grueling training, through confronting fear and learning not to be ruled by it. He learns to keep moving even when his legs are weak, to stay calm in chaos, to sacrifice when duty calls. In the same way, the strong in everyday life are not immune to fear. They have simply learned to face it, walk with it, and move forward anyway. Strength is not born in ease. It is born in adversity. Like iron in the forge, it must face fire and hammer blows to become a sword. A person who has never struggled does not know how much they can endure. A person who has never failed does not know the power of rising again. A person who has never been lost may never fully appreciate the gift of direction. You don't learn strength from books or lectures. You learn it by living, by hurting, by losing. Only in our darkest moments do we discover the light within. Only when things fall apart do we find out what we're truly made of. More importantly, strength doesn't arrive all at once. It's built through daily repetition, through the small and often overlooked acts of discipline. When you choose to wake up early, exercise, and keep your promises to yourself, you are sowing the seeds of strength. When you say no to bad habits, excuses, and procrastination, you are laying down the bricks of a fortress no one can see but everyone will one day feel. Strong people are not fearless. They tremble, they doubt, they feel overwhelmed just like anyone else. But the difference is this: they don't let fear lead. They act anyway. They move forward in spite of it. That is the essence of strength. Doing what must be done, even when you don't feel ready, even when it hurts, even when it's hard. Look at the ones who have shaped history. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison, yet he walked out not with bitterness, but with unshakable resolve. He was not born resilient, he became resilient, forged through silence, injustice, isolation, and the decision not to give in. Strength is also not something measured by applause. It is found in your consistency when no one is watching, in your decision to do right when wrong is easier, in your refusal to take shortcuts. Ask yourself, what do you do when no one is watching? What do you tell yourself when you fail? How do you react when you're hurt, misunderstood, or rejected? Those are the moments when true strength reveals itself, not when you succeed, but in how you respond to failure. Not when you're on top of the world, but when you're at your lowest point. And if today you feel weak, that's okay. Because strength is not where you start. It's where you decide to go. You're not expected to be extraordinary overnight. But if each day you're a little more patient, a little braver, a little more persistent, then you are becoming truly strong. Strength doesn't need fanfare. It doesn't crave validation. It lives in your daily choices. It's in the way you stay true to your values, even when others give up. In the way you continue, even when exhausted. In the way you believe in yourself, even when the world doesn't. Maybe you don't see the results yet. Maybe you still feel small. But trust this. Every time you choose not to give up, you're forging an inner power far stronger than the outside world can imagine. Don't wait for your circumstances to change before deciding to be strong. Be strong within your circumstances. Be the one who stands tall in the storm. Be the tree that does not uproot in the wind. As the quote goes, the strongest people are not those who show strength in front of us, but those who win battles we know nothing about. You can be that person if you decide to start forging your strength today. If strength is forged in silence, through persistence and struggle, then emotions are the invisible wind that can either uproot or elevate that strength. You can train your body, build habits, and sharpen your intellect. But if you can't master your emotions, you will always be a drifting vessel, vulnerable to the storm within. People don't collapse because life is too hard. Most of the time, they fall because they were never taught how to handle what brews inside of them. We don't lose to the world. We lose to fear, to anger, to disappointment, to self-doubt. The storm outside doesn't sink a ship unless water gets in. And emotions, too, can only destroy us if we let them take root within. Think about it. When you've been hurt, angry, overwhelmed, what truly paralyzed you? It wasn't the situation itself. It was your unconscious emotional reaction to that situation. Emotions can be your companions or your saboteurs. It all depends on whether you lead them or let them lead you. True inner strength lies not in muscle or motivation, but in the ability to stay grounded when your heart trembles. You can't control the world, but you can control how you respond when the world spins out of control. That's the essence of lasting power. If strength is built like a fortress, then emotional mastery is the foundation that keeps it standing when earthquakes come. Mastering your emotions doesn't mean suppressing or denying them. It means understanding, navigating, and using them to your advantage. It means becoming aware. It's not about avoiding pain. It's about not being ruled by it. Imagine standing in the eye of a storm. Bad news hits from all sides. You've been betrayed. Your plans have crumbled. Your heart is broken. In that moment, you have two choices. You can let your emotions explode, scream, withdraw, give up, or you can pause, breathe deeply, face the storm within, and ask yourself, will I react impulsively, or will I choose powerfully? That is the moment when true inner strength is awakened, not through visible action, but through quiet command of the self. The weak let emotion dictate behavior. The strong let behavior lead emotion. Those who have never learned to master their emotions will be tossed around by every change in their environment. One comment can ruin their entire week. A single rejection sends them spiraling into self-doubt. One setback, and their entire sense of purpose begins to crumble. But those who have cultivated emotional mastery are like deep-rooted oak trees. The winds may shake them, but they do not fall. Negative emotions aren't evil, they're human. But the question is, are you in control of them, or are they in control of you? Do you use your anger to take wise action, or let it destroy your relationships? Do you let fear paralyze you, or treat it as a signal that you're stepping into new growth? Your mind is a stage. Emotions are characters. If you're not directing the play, the characters will run wild. But if you become the director, you can use each emotion as a tool to shape a masterpiece. Emotionally strong people still feel sadness, fear, and frustration, but they use those feelings as fuel. They turn sorrow into wisdom, fear into focus, anger into action. Emotional mastery begins with awareness. When emotions rise, you pause instead of reacting. You label what you feel. This is fear. This is disappointment. This is rejection. You get curious instead of judgmental. Why is this coming up? What is it trying to tell me? Then you choose your actions based on your values, not your moods. This isn't some lofty theory. It's a survival skill. Because as you walk the path of building strength, you will face countless rejections, failures, betrayals, delays, and temptations. Without emotional mastery, you'll burn out, no matter how strong your body is. Muscle lifts weight, but emotional strength lifts you back up when life crushes you. Think of the world's greatest figures. They weren't immune to pain, but they refused to be defined by it. They felt deeply, but acted wisely. They learned to listen to emotions without surrendering to them. Their compass was not their reaction, but their conviction. Mastering emotions doesn't make you cold. It makes you free. You are no longer a prisoner of your moods. You no longer need validation to feel stable. You live from your center, calm, deliberate, unshakable. Maybe today, you're still easily swayed by emotions. That's okay. But from this moment on, you can begin to train. Just like strength is built in the gym, emotional resilience is built through mindful practice. Every time you pause instead of lashing out, you gain ground. Every time you sit with discomfort instead of numbing it, you grow. When you build physical strength, you can fight. But when you master emotions, you don't just fight, you win. Because true power doesn't come from never falling. It comes from rising again, steady in heart and clear in mind. Emotionally strong people don't panic in crisis. They know emotions are like waves, and they are the ocean. Waves may crash, rise, and roar, but the ocean remains deep, vast, and steady. You can be that ocean if you choose to train for it. Begin today. When disappointed, instead of blaming, ask, "What is this teaching me?" When angry, instead of exploding, ask, "What part of me feels wounded?" When afraid, instead of hiding, ask, "What new door is this fear asking me to open?" Because emotional mastery is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength. You've come to understand that strength is not a gift from above, but a result of silent, consistent training. You've also seen how mastering your emotions is not weakness, but the very essence of true self-control. But beneath all that, deeper than discipline, beyond emotional mastery, lies a force even more powerful. A force that gives direction to discipline and meaning to emotional restraint. That force is purpose, the inner compass that guides you through even the darkest storms. In a world flooded with distractions, noise, and shifting priorities, purpose is like a lighthouse in the fog. It doesn't scream for attention, but it stands tall, unshakable, showing you the way. When you're unclear about why you're here or what you're fighting for, even the smallest obstacle can stop you. But when your purpose is strong enough, clear enough, sacred enough, then no storm can shake you from your path. Purpose doesn't have to be grand or world-changing from the start. Sometimes it begins with a quiet question. Why do I want to be strong? What am I truly moving toward? That simple inquiry, if asked with sincerity, becomes a fire that never burns out. It fuels your actions. It lifts you when you fall. It keeps you grounded when emotions try to take over. If emotions are waves and discipline is the ship, then purpose is the North Star. Emotional mastery can help you navigate storms, but without a destination, you'll just drift. True strength comes from being centered, and you can't be centered unless you know where you're going. Picture a ship sailing across the open sea. Without a compass, no matter how powerful its engine, no matter how skilled the crew, it will drift aimlessly. Life is the same. Without purpose, your strength becomes aimless. Your emotional control becomes directionless. Purpose gathers all your inner powers and channels them towards something meaningful. What is purpose? It's that deep reason that pushes you to get back up. It's what makes you say no to comfort and yes to growth. It's what compels you to act with integrity, even when no one sees or rewards you. It's why you get up in the morning with fire in your eyes, even when the world around you is cold and grey. When you live for something greater than yourself, you become unshakable. The greatest people in history weren't stronger or smarter than us. What set them apart was clarity. They knew what they were here for. Martin Luther King, Jr. didn't rise to fame because he wanted attention. He stood up because he had an unshakable belief in equality. Helen Keller didn't overcome the prison of blindness and silence because of luck. She did it because she wanted to bring hope to those who had none. They were driven by something bigger than pain, bigger than fear, bigger than pride. When you live with purpose, you don't need applause. Because your deepest fulfillment comes not from what the world thinks, but from knowing you're aligned with your soul. And here's the truth. The more clearly you live by purpose, the stronger you become. The stronger you become, the more control you gain over emotions. And the more emotional mastery you develop, the more disciplined your life becomes. These three forces, strength, emotion, and purpose, do not live apart. They intertwine. They feed each other. They form a fortress from the inside out. You may ask, how do I find my purpose? It's not some magical moment of clarity. It's more like a quiet sifting through your experiences. It comes from asking again and again, what lights my soul on fire, even if no one notices? What would I still fight for, even if I had nothing to gain? If there were no one to impress, who would I still choose to become? The answers won't appear instantly, but once you start asking, you begin the most sacred journey of your life. The journey back to yourself. And when your purpose is clear, struggles lose their sting. Obstacles become teachers. Disappointments become data. You no longer act based on fleeting emotion. You act from unwavering conviction. Purpose also teaches patience. In a world obsessed with speed, you stop rushing. You begin to understand that anything worth building takes time. That every day lived with direction is a day you're laying bricks for a legacy. Look at history. Those who left a lasting mark weren't always the fastest, loudest, or most famous. They were the most steadfast. They stayed true to their path, even when mocked, misunderstood, or walking alone. And eventually, the world noticed. Not because they chased recognition, but because their light could no longer be ignored. You too can live this way. You don't have to be a hero. You don't have to save the world. You just have to live each day with a clear heart that whispers, I'm here to grow, to serve, to create, to become the best version of myself and share that with others. That is a humble purpose, but a powerful one, and it's more than enough to carry you through any storm. Remember, when you're exhausted, purpose gives you breath. When you're shaken, purpose helps you rise. When you're lost, purpose calls you home. Because people with purpose don't quit when it's hard. They only stop when the mission is complete. Once you've discovered your purpose, the inner lighthouse that guides you through life's storms, you begin to see a deeper truth. Every challenge on your path is not a roadblock, but a lesson. Every hardship does not come to destroy you. It comes to shape you. Adversity is not your enemy. It is your teacher, stern, silent, and unrelenting, but always committed to your growth. It's easy to feel grateful when life flows smoothly. It's easy to keep faith when the sun is shining and the waters are calm. But what happens when your plans collapse? When the people you trust walk away? When all your efforts seem to go unrewarded? When everything you once held on to begins to shake? That is when adversity enters. Not to break you, but to ask you a question. How badly do you want the life you say you're here for? The truth is, most people hate adversity. We avoid it, resist it, curse it. But if you look closer, you'll see this. The strongest, most grounded, most resilient people you've ever met were shaped not in comfort, but in crisis. They didn't rise despite adversity. They rose because of it. You may have clarity of purpose. You may have trained your emotions well. But if you don't understand that adversity is a necessary companion on the journey to your best self, then the first wave of difficulty will tempt you to retreat. Adversity does not destroy you. It reveals you. It shows you what's still unhealed, untrained, untrue. It exposes the cracks in your character, the gaps in your values, the limits you've yet to transcend. Like fire to metal, adversity burns away the surface and brings forth the core. And only from that core can true strength be rebuilt. Think about it. Your deepest insights, your most powerful growth didn't come from a perfect season. They came from the heartbreak, the betrayal, the loss. The moments that forced you to your knees and made you question everything. And yet, those were the moments that returned you to the most important questions. Who am I? What do I really want? Am I willing to keep going? And the answers you found in those broken places, that's where your transformation began. What if you started seeing adversity through a new lens? Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You ask, what is this trying to teach me? Instead of running, you listen. Instead of resisting, you surrender. Not to the pain, but to the lesson inside it, because adversity doesn't show up to punish you. It shows up to prepare you. If you're walking a meaningful path and you haven't met adversity yet, you likely haven't gone far enough. No one who pursues something meaningful escapes difficulty. The more sacred your purpose, as we discussed in Idea 3, the more life will test your devotion to it. You say you want to grow. Adversity will make sure your growth is real. You say you want to build something that lasts. Adversity will ask if your foundation is strong. You say you want to be unshakable. Adversity will shake you to the core, and watch what remains standing. Like the diamond, formed under immense pressure, like the towering oak that digs its roots deeper during the storm, your soul finds its depth in difficulty. You don't learn patience in comfort. You don't learn gratitude in abundance. You don't learn courage in certainty. And you do not build resilience in routine. Just like muscles tear before they grow, you expand only when pushed to your edges. Think back to a time when you overcame something painful. Aren't you different now? Stronger? Wiser? More compassionate? Not because the pain itself changed you, but because of how you responded to it. Adversities isn't the wall, it's the doorway. But only those who stop blaming, who stop playing the victim, who stop waiting for the world to change, only they find the courage to walk through. When you realize adversity is your teacher, you no longer avoid discomfort. You meet it. You sit with it. You let it speak to you. You no longer see setbacks as signs of failure, but as invitations to rise higher. Each time you do, something inside you strengthens, something matures, and your purpose becomes not just something you believe in, but something you embody. The distance between suffering and wisdom is a choice. You can let adversity harden you, make you bitter, shut down your heart. Or you can let it refine you, make you softer in spirit, sharper in clarity, and deeper in strength. Everyone experiences pain, but some let it define them. Others use it to redefine themselves. When your purpose is clear, adversity becomes a chapter, not the whole story. It's not something to dread, but something to integrate. A painful teacher, yes, but one that always leaves you better than it found you. The greatest lesson adversity teaches is this: you are stronger than you think. You don't need perfect conditions to rise. You don't need to feel ready to move forward. You just need to keep going, even with a trembling heart, even through the fog of doubt. Every storm you face and walk through becomes part of your permanent strength. A quiet confidence that no one can see, but everyone can feel. So if you're in the middle of hardship right now, know this: you're not lost. You're learning. You're being shaped. You're being tested, yes. But you're also being forged. And one day, you'll look back and realize that the very seasons that almost broke you were the ones that built you. Once you've understood that adversity is not an enemy but a silent teacher, you've already made a profound shift in your personal growth. But the lessons adversity offers only take root if you have a solid foundation to receive them. And that foundation is nothing other than a disciplined mind, a fortress no storm can destroy, a gate only you are responsible for guarding every single day. If purpose is your compass and emotions are the unpredictable winds, then your mind is the sail and discipline is the hand on the helm. You can have a bold vision, a passionate heart, but if your mind is scattered, undisciplined, or ruled by whims, then everything you've built can fall apart the moment life gets hard. Because in the face of the same adversity, some people break down while others rise. Not because the latter are luckier, but because they've trained their minds not to react impulsively, but to respond with clarity. They don't let fear drive their decisions. They don't let pain define their path. They keep walking, not because it's easy, but because their inner world is stable enough to navigate the chaos. A disciplined mind isn't born. It is built. It doesn't come from motivational speeches or good intentions. It comes from the quiet moments when you say no to procrastination. From early mornings when you get up even when your body says no. From hours spent showing up for your craft, your vision, your values. When no one is watching, applauding, or rewarding you. Every small act of self-discipline is a brick laid in the construction of your inner fortress. Once you've understood that adversity is not an enemy but a silent teacher, you've already made a profound shift in your personal growth. But the lessons adversity offers only take root if you have a solid foundation to receive them. And that foundation is nothing other than a disciplined mind, a fortress no storm can destroy, a gate only you are responsible for guarding every single day. If purpose is your compass and emotions are the unpredictable winds, then your mind is the sail, and discipline is the hand on the helm. You can have a bold vision, a passionate heart, but if your mind is scattered, undisciplined, or ruled by whims, then everything you've built can fall apart the moment life gets hard. Because in the face of the same adversity, some people break down while others rise. Not because the latter are luckier, but because they've trained their minds not to react impulsively, but to respond with clarity. They don't let fear drive their decisions. They don't let pain define their path. They keep walking, not because it's easy, but because their inner world is stable enough to navigate the chaos. A disciplined mind isn't born. It is built. It doesn't come from motivational speeches or good intentions. It comes from the quiet moments when you say no to procrastination. From early mornings when you get up even when your body says no. From hours spent showing up for your craft, your vision, your values, when no one is watching, applauding, or rewarding you. Every small act of self-discipline is a brick laid in the construction of your inner fortress. Imagine your mind as a garden. If you don't tend it, weeds grow. Doubt, laziness, envy, comparison, resentment. But if you care for it, feed it healthy thoughts, practice daily rituals, and guard it like sacred ground, you will harvest clarity, resilience, focus, and grounded confidence. Discipline doesn't kill freedom, it creates it. It may sound like a contradiction, but real freedom isn't doing whatever you want. Real freedom is not being controlled by anything. The disciplined mind can walk through temptation without surrendering. It can face chaos without panic. It can feel pain without becoming consumed by it. Discipline is doing the right thing even when no one's watching. It's being loyal to yourself, to your values, to your word. It's acting with consistency regardless of how you feel. It's the very foundation that transforms adversity into growth, rather than letting it become a weight that drags you down. As we explored in the previous idea, adversity is fire. It strips away illusion and tests your essence. But discipline is the mold that holds you steady in the fire, so that you come out refined, not destroyed. Without it, pain becomes your prison. With it, pain becomes your tool. A disciplined mind is not cold or rigid. It is a heart that knows how to steer emotions rather than suppress them. It allows you to fully feel sorrow, fear, frustration, and still make wise decisions. Discipline doesn't numb your emotions. It guides them to serve your purpose. People often say, "I just don't feel motivated." But those with disciplined minds don't wait for motivation. They act from commitment. They understand that motivation is fleeting, but discipline is stable. They don't let their mood dictate their schedule. They let their mission dictate their actions. You don't need superhuman willpower to build a disciplined mind. You just need to start with small things. Wake up 10 minutes earlier. Sit in silence for 5 minutes. Write down 3 things you're grateful for. Finally complete that task you've been avoiding. Each tiny victory whispers to you, you can trust yourself. And when you trust yourself, you build a power no one can take away. A disciplined mind stays faithful to your purpose, even when the world tries to distract you. It keeps you aligned when others give up. It holds your gaze when the path gets dark. It helps you keep going even when you're the only one who still believes in the dream. The outside world may be chaotic, but the world within you can remain calm if you've trained your mind well. And from that calm place, you don't just survive life, you command it. There is no sustainable strength without a disciplined mind. There is no real success that isn't rooted in self-mastery. And there is no meaningful growth without the quiet daily act of keeping your word to yourself, even when life is easy, and especially when it's not. So, begin. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. One action a day, one choice at a time. Every choice another layer of your fortress. Every act of discipline a promise kept. Every promise kept a vote of confidence in who you are becoming. Say to yourself, I will master my mind. And because of that, I will master my life. Once you've built a disciplined mind, a fortress no storm can breach, you've laid the solid foundation for any journey in life. But from that foundation, to truly reach the peak, to transform vision into reality, to move from wanting to having, you need a bridge. And that bridge is called perseverance. If discipline is the ability to do the right thing every day, then perseverance is the ability to keep doing it year after year, even when you see nothing but fog ahead. Because not every success comes quickly. Not every effort yields immediate results. There are long, slow roads where motivation alone is not enough. Discipline is the start, but perseverance is the force that takes you to the finish. You may begin with passion, a clear goal, and a burning excitement. But time passes. Emotions fade, obstacles appear, results are delayed, doubt grows. The freshness wears off and routine settles in. Then the question begins to whisper in your mind. Should I keep going? That is the moment most people give up, not because they're not capable, but because they lack perseverance. Success doesn't belong to the fastest starter, or even the most talented. It belongs to the one who refuses to quit, the one who keeps going when no one is watching, the one who walks forward, even when all signs say to turn around, the one who keeps showing up, quietly, steadily, because they've made a deeper promise to themselves. Perseverance is not glamorous. It isn't praised daily, but it is the glue that binds everything together, discipline, emotion, purpose, and will, into one unstoppable flow. It is the quiet commitment that says, I will not quit. Not because I haven't doubted, but because I've chosen to trust something greater than my doubt. The difference between those who achieve greatness and those who abandon the path rarely lies in skill. It lies in the depth of their perseverance. The successful are not people who never wanted to give up. They are the ones who wanted to give up 100 times, but still kept going. Look at any great story. An author finishing a novel after 5 years of writing. An athlete training through thousands of hours of sweat. A single mother building a life from nothing. You'll see a common thread. They didn't quit. And to not quit, you need a mind strong enough to keep you steady. This is where the disciplined mind becomes the foundation of perseverance. An undisciplined mind is easily swayed by emotions and setbacks. But the disciplined mind whispers, yes, this is hard, but this is also worth it. Perseverance is an action, not a feeling. You don't need to feel inspired to continue. You just need to continue. It doesn't require every day to be perfect. Just that you don't stop for too long. You don't need to win every battle. You just need to return after each loss. Some days you'll be so tired that you can only take one tiny step forward. But one tiny step is still forward. And if you keep taking steps, no matter how small, you're shortening the distance between where you are and where you're meant to be. Think about the making of anything great, a sculpture carved through thousands of chisel strokes, a symphony written through endless edits and rewrites, a strong body built through every workout, every meal, every night of restful sleep. All of it is the outcome of perseverance, not one day, but years of staying, returning, refining. Perseverance is also the quiet trust in the process. The farmer doesn't dig up the soil daily to check if the seed is growing. He waters, he waits, he believes. He knows the harvest will come, though nothing is visible yet. You must do the same. Trust the actions you repeat. Trust the effort you invest. Trust that every consistent choice is building something greater than you can see. Perseverance means you also learn to forgive yourself. Forgive the days you slipped, the mornings you failed, the moments you doubted. Forgive and return. No shame, no judgment, just one choice. Begin again. And over time, you'll realize those who look extraordinary, who shine with unwavering strength, are not that different. They just outlasted the resistance. They stayed when others walked away. They kept going when logic said to quit. They believed in their dream when no one else did. So if today you feel tired, if you're midway through the road and can't yet see the finish line, if your vision feels distant, don't stop. You don't have to run. Just don't stop. Remember, perseverance doesn't need applause. It doesn't need validation. It only needs you, the only one who can take the next step. When you've mastered the art of perseverance, when you've continued walking long after the applause has faded, you've already surpassed most who ever began. But there is one silent force that determines whether you'll ever reach the summit. A quiet power, invisible from the outside, yet stronger than any external support. That force is belief in yourself. Self-belief is not arrogance. It is not blind optimism. It is the calm, grounded certainty that says, I can overcome this. I am worthy. I will make it. It is the foundation beneath your actions, the flame that keeps you warm in the cold, the inner voice that reminds you who you are when the world forgets. Perseverance is the bridge that connects desire to achievement. But no bridge can stand without solid ground. And that ground is your inner belief. You cannot persist toward a dream you don't believe you're capable of reaching. Every forward step requires one core condition, the belief that you can. You might have the tools, the plan, the support. But if you don't believe in yourself, you'll freeze the moment doubt appears. You'll reject opportunities because you think you're not ready. You'll delay taking action because you don't trust your ability to handle what's ahead. You'll choose the easier path simply because you're afraid of failing on the harder one. When you've mastered the art of perseverance, when you've continued walking long after the applause has faded, you've already surpassed most who ever began. But there is one silent force that determines whether you'll ever reach the summit. A quiet power, invisible from the outside, yet stronger than any external support. That force is belief in yourself. Self-belief is not arrogance. It is not blind optimism. It is the calm, grounded certainty that says, I can overcome this. I am worthy. I will make it. It is the foundation beneath your actions, the flame that keeps you warm in the cold, the inner voice that reminds you who you are when the world forgets. As discussed in Idea 6, perseverance is the bridge that connects desire to achievement. But no bridge can stand without solid ground, and that ground is your inner belief. You cannot persist toward a dream you don't believe you're capable of reaching. Every forward step requires one core condition, the belief that you can. You might have the tools, the plan, the support. But if you don't believe in yourself, you'll freeze the moment doubt appears. You'll reject opportunities because you think you're not ready. You'll delay taking action because you don't trust your ability to handle what's ahead. You'll choose the easier path simply because you're afraid of failing on the harder one. Self-belief doesn't arrive fully formed. It's built brick by brick through every promise you keep to yourself. Every time you say, "I will," and then you do, you lay another stone. Every time you fall but get back up, you deepen the foundation. Every time you refuse to let others define your worth, you take ownership of your identity. On the other hand, every broken promise to yourself chips away at that foundation. Every time you let someone else's voice drown out your own, you hand over control. Over time, you begin living not by belief, but by fear. A mind without belief is like a house without a foundation. It might look beautiful on the outside, but one strong gust can knock it down. And the tragedy is, many live this way for years, afraid to try, afraid to be seen, afraid to speak, because deep inside, they don't believe they're enough. But you weren't born without belief. You learned doubt from your environment, from the past, from criticism that wasn't yours to carry. And what was learned can be unlearned, redefined, rebuilt. Belief is not a gift, it's a practice. Like a muscle, it strengthens the more you use it. You build belief through action, not by waiting to feel confident, but by doing the thing even when you're scared, trying again even after failing, saying yes even when you're unsure. Belief doesn't come before progress, it creates progress. Think back to a time when you were afraid, and you still went through with it. You weren't certain. You weren't perfect. But you acted anyway. And afterward, something inside you changed. That's what belief feels like. Quiet, earned, real. Self-belief also shields you from the noise of others' opinions. No one can believe in you more deeply than you. There will be voices that criticize, mock, minimize. Not because you're not good enough, but because they've abandoned belief in themselves. And if you're not careful, their doubt will become your inner monologue. But when your belief is rooted, you don't wait for permission. You don't stall for validation. You don't overthink. You move because you know who you are. And those who truly know themselves are not defined by circumstance. Picture yourself as the gatekeeper of your mind. If you let in every judgment, every fear, every memory of past failure, they will take the space meant for belief. But if you remind yourself, I get to choose what I believe, and I choose to believe in my strength even before it's fully proven, then you become the author of your own story. Self-belief doesn't mean you'll never fail. It means that when failure comes, you won't abandon yourself. You won't confuse a moment of loss with a lack of worth. You won't let a temporary outcome determine your permanent identity. You'll know mistakes are fleeting. Growth is constant. The farther you go, the clearer it becomes. Your belief in yourself is your greatest asset. Not status, not credentials, not applause, because all those things can be lost. But if you keep your belief, you can start again, anywhere, anytime. And belief is contagious. When you walk with conviction, you don't just lift yourself, you inspire others. You show them that it's possible to stand back up, to act without guarantees, to keep going even after rejection. You don't need the world to believe in you. Be the first and be the last. Because in the end, belief in yourself is not fantasy. It's proven courage, earned in the dark, built in silence, solidified in every choice you made when it would have been easier to give up. So hold your belief, like a fire you kindle in the night, like a home you build during the storm, like the way you look at yourself in the mirror, with grace, with courage, with quiet certainty. If you keep walking, day by day, through doubt and resistance, you'll arrive in places you once thought were unreachable. Not because of luck, not because of chance, but because you carried one unbreakable thing with you the whole way: your belief in yourself. When you carry a deep belief in yourself, you've already walked halfway through every great journey. But belief, no matter how strong, is just a seed. For that seed to germinate, grow, and blossom into its full potential, it needs one vital condition: consistency. If belief is the quiet fire that burns within your chest, then consistency is the steady wind that keeps it alive. You can believe in yourself. You can persevere. You can be disciplined. But if you don't repeat the right actions daily, steadily, persistently, and without interruption, you'll forever remain a version of yourself full of potential, but without fruition. Consistency isn't flashy. It doesn't show up on achievement boards. It's not named on stage. It doesn't yield instant results. But it is the silent key that opens every door. It is the rhythmic knocking at the heart of success. The background music no one notices, yet without it, the entire symphony would collapse. You don't need to do everything grand. You just need to do the right thing, every day. One page written, one healthy meal, one short workout, one honest thank you, one refusal to return to old patterns. These small actions, when done consistently, become the silent bricks of your fortress of growth. On the other hand, interruptions, no matter how small, if prolonged, can unravel your entire rhythm. One missed workout, 1 week without reading, 1 month of procrastination, and you're back at square one. Not because you're weak, but because you weren't consistent enough. Extraordinary people aren't those who do massive things all at once. They are the ones who do small things with massive commitment and repeat them until those small things become great. You may see an artist shine on stage, but you don't see the thousands of hours of quiet practice. You may read a book that shifts your mindset, but you don't know the author wrote every day in silence and self-doubt. You may admire someone's disciplined lifestyle, but you don't witness the countless small choices they made in the dark. That is the power of consistency. It doesn't need to be seen. It only needs to be sustained. And to sustain it, you need belief in yourself. That belief keeps you on track even when no one acknowledges your path. That belief helps you repeat actions even when the results haven't arrived. That belief turns simple tasks into meaningful steps because you understand each small action today is a step toward the person you are becoming. Consistency doesn't mean you'll never falter. It means that when you do, you return. When you miss a beat, you keep the song going. That is the art of holding rhythm. Like a drummer who keeps playing, even after missing a stroke. Extraordinary people are not perfect. They are the ones who repeat what's right, until it becomes who they are. And the beauty is, you can become one of them. You don't need genius. You don't need a flawless background. You just need to choose every single day to return. Imagine consistency as tiny drops of water falling on rock. 1 drop, 2 drops, nothing changes. But thousands, millions of drops will bore a hole through stone. It's not the force, but the repetition. You don't have to conquer everything in one swing. You just need to stay aligned with right action, day after day. Just like the river doesn't scream as it shapes valleys. It simply flows, steadily, endlessly. Its soft persistence transforms the landscape, and you, with consistency, can reshape the landscape of your own life. But consistency doesn't appear out of nowhere. It requires a system, a schedule, a reminder, an environment. You must make room for it. Simplify. Eliminate distractions. Build habits instead of waiting for inspiration. Because inspiration comes and goes. But habit builds results. And when you've been consistent long enough, you'll no longer need to try. The right actions become default. Your new routines become identity. Repeated behavior becomes character. At that point, you don't just do, you are. You're not someone trying to live healthy. You live health. Not someone trying to write. You are a writer. Not someone trying to change. You have become the change. Consistency transforms the extraordinary into the ordinary. And then, the repeated ordinary becomes extraordinary again. And there is nothing more sustainable than a result born from conscious repetition. Remember, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent in your imperfection. You may be tired. You may be wrong. But don't stop for too long. Don't let one mistake become total surrender. Keep the rhythm. Keep walking. Keep your spirit. Because in the end, what you repeat will shape who you become. And if you need an image to remember this, think of a seed sprouting from the earth. It doesn't grow overnight. Each day it pushes up, a fraction of a millimeter. But it doesn't stop, doesn't pause, doesn't give up. Every day it resists gravity, endures pressure from the soil, survives unpredictable weather. And then one day, it breaks the surface. No one saw how far it came. But it knows. It never stopped. So do you. No matter how slow your pace, no matter how delayed your results, if you keep going, you've already won. You've defeated yesterday's version of you. You've defeated procrastination. You've defeated doubt, and it is this consistency that will lead you to places you once believed were impossible. When you have trained yourself to be consistent, like a river that silently but steadily carves stone, like a drop of water that persistently wears through rock, you possess a rare strength, the power of transformation. But at the end of the path, a greater test awaits: pain. And this is when you must understand a crucial truth. Pain is not a chain. It is fuel. Most people fear pain. They avoid it. They do everything they can not to feel it. But the paradox is this: pain is inevitable in life. You can run, delay, pretend it isn't there. But it will come. Because growth always comes with discomfort. And adversity always walks hand in hand with transformation. You cannot live a meaningful life without facing pain. You cannot reach your true potential without falling, losing, or facing a reality that breaks you down in the silence of the night. But instead of letting pain imprison you, let it awaken you. Pain, when seen clearly, is not a punishment. It is an invitation. An invitation to step into a higher version of yourself. It says, it's time to change. It's time to be stronger. It's time to let go of the old, to embrace the new. You can let pain make you bitter, or let it make you brave. You can let it close you off, or let it open a depth in you that you never knew existed. You can let it keep you trapped in the past, or let it push you forward into a new future. The choice is yours. If you have cultivated consistency, idea 8, You already have the foundation to handle pain as a resource, not a hindrance. Consistency gives you the habit of continuing even when your heart is in chaos. It gives you a steady rhythm when everything around you is falling apart. And that repeated step, again and again, is the path that will carry you through pain, rather than let it consume you. Look at extraordinary people. They are not the lucky ones untouched by hardship. On the contrary, they are the ones who have been broken. But they use their brokenness to rebuild themselves. They have tasted deep sorrow, but instead of letting it drown them, they let it forge their heart and spirit into tempered steel. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times in the lab. Helen Keller grew up in silence and darkness. Nelson Mandela was imprisoned for nearly 3 decades. They were not untouched by pain. They were people who used pain as a tool for evolution. And so can you. No one escapes pain, but you can choose to walk through it with your eyes wide open. See pain as a teacher, not a threat. Ask it, what are you here to teach me? What must I release because of you? What part of myself have I avoided that you now demand I face? Because every time you fully face and embrace pain, you grow. You shed another old layer. You see yourself more clearly. You move closer to the person you were born to become. Don't turn pain into a story you repeat just to hold on to sorrow. Turn it into the fire that fuels your reason to keep going. Make it your engine. Use it to rewrite your journey, to redefine your identity, to prove to life you will not be broken. Every scar is a mark of a warrior. And if you wear those scars with pride, you inspire the world. You don't need to hide your pain. You just need to transform it into power. Maybe today you're in pain. Maybe you've lost a loved one, a dream, a piece of who you were. Let yourself feel it, but don't stay there. Don't pitch a tent in the darkness. Move, even slowly. Just keep moving, because every step you take is one step where pain becomes resilience. And one day, you'll look back and say, I don't thank the pain, but I'm grateful I didn't break, because through that pain, I found myself. Pain doesn't come to defeat you. It comes to call you back to yourself. When pain has stopped being your chain and become your fuel. When you've walked through your darkest night and emerged not broken, but reborn. What remains is not only resilience, but an entirely new lens through which to see life. This is where gratitude begins. And it is here that we encounter the final, most enduring pillar of unshakable strength, the power of gratitude. Gratitude is not an emotion reserved for good days. It's not a polite nod to fortune. It is a deep, deliberate practice of seeing clearly, even in the storm, especially in the storm. Because the person who can whisper thank you in the midst of hardship is the person who has transcended their circumstances. If pain, idea 9, taught us that suffering can be transformed into fuel, then gratitude teaches us how to use that fuel to illuminate, not incinerate. While pain forces growth, gratitude softens the edges. It gives the wound meaning. It turns trials into teachers, and scars into symbols of sacred evolution. You've endured. You've persisted. You've bled and rebuilt. Now what? Now you begin to look at all of it. Every broken dream, every closed door, every unexpected loss. And you say, not with naive optimism, but with quiet conviction, thank you. Not because the pain was pleasant, not because the loss was fair, but because in all of it, something precious was given. Clarity, courage, character, gratitude, when practiced consistently, becomes a lens through which you no longer see lack, but abundance. You stop asking, Why me? And begin asking, what can this teach me? You stop resenting what you lost and start treasuring what you've gained. The strength to keep walking, the wisdom to guide others, the compassion that only suffering could have carved into your heart. It's easy to be grateful for blessings. It's transformative to be grateful for burdens. And this is the turning point, when you no longer need the world to go your way in order to give thanks. You realize that life doesn't owe you anything, and yet it gives you everything you need to grow. Through joy, yes, but also through grief. The power of gratitude lies not in ignoring hardship, but in absorbing it and still choosing to honor the journey. Gratitude says, even this has value, even this heartbreak, even this failure, even this delay. And in saying that, you reclaim agency over your life. When you are grateful, you are grounded. You stop chasing external validation. You begin to see that your worth doesn't increase with applause or diminish with rejection. Gratitude anchors you to what truly matters. It makes you immune to comparison. It frees you from the trap of never enough. Every morning you wake up is an opportunity to begin again. And if you begin with gratitude, you start from abundance. You rise already rich. Not in material wealth, but in presence, in perspective, in purpose. Gratitude is a discipline. It is not automatic. In a world obsessed with achievement, gratitude demands that you pause, that you notice, that you remember. The breath you just took was not guaranteed. The mind with which you read these words is a gift. The people you love, the lessons you've learned, the fact that you are still here, that is everything. But perhaps most powerfully, gratitude rewires your relationship with yourself. It silences the inner critic. It says, I am thankful for who I was, for who I am, and for who I am becoming. It acknowledges the progress others can't see. It gives dignity to the quiet work you do behind closed doors. And here's the paradox. The more you give thanks, the more you receive. Not always in form, but in fulfillment. Life expands where gratitude flows. Peace settles in where resentment once lived. Joy emerges from places you thought were barren. You want to be strong? Practice gratitude when it's hardest. Speak it aloud when your heart feels heavy. Write it down when your thoughts spiral. Whisper it at night when silence feels unbearable. Let gratitude be your rebellion against bitterness. Let it be the anthem of your persistence, because gratitude doesn't deny the pain, it dignifies it. It doesn't erase the battle, it honors it. And through that reverence, you rise, not only healed, but whole, not only wiser, but wider, with room to carry not just your own story, but the stories of others still walking through their fire. So say thank you for the detours, for the delays, for the difficulty, not because they were pleasant, but because they prepared you, because they revealed you, because they gave you a strength gentler than force, quieter than pride, but more enduring than either. Gratitude is the last step, but it is also the one that never ends. Practice it, and you will find that even in life's fiercest storms, you will not be shaken. Because you have built your life on a foundation of fire-tested strength, and crowned it with grace. When gratitude becomes your compass, when every scar carries the dignity of survival, and every breath begins with reverence, you step into a space of stillness, clarity, and depth that few ever reach. And from that sacred place, another power quietly rises, the strength of listening deeply to your inner world. This is the 11th foundation of unshakable strength. Self-awareness through deep inner listening. It is the art of pausing long enough, often enough, to hear what your life is really trying to tell you. After you've walked through pain, idea 9, and crowned your growth with gratitude, idea 10, you begin to realize something profound. Not every battle is outside. In fact, the most persistent battles are often within, between your fears and your vision, between your conditioning and your calling, between the voice of the world and the whisper of your soul. And this is why inner listening matters. Because in a world full of noise, silence becomes sacred. Because when you learn to truly hear yourself, not the voice of fear, not the echo of expectations, but the quiet truth underneath, it becomes impossible to live a lie. The strength to persevere through storms is powerful, but the strength to recognize your own inner weather before it turns into a storm, that is mastery. Inner listening is not about passivity. It is about awareness. It is about learning to sit with your thoughts long enough to trace them back to their origin. It is about asking yourself the questions most run from, what do I really want? What am I pretending not to know? Where am I acting from fear instead of truth? What part of me is asking for attention, healing, or release? When you practice this kind of listening, you begin to notice subtle things. How your body reacts to certain environments, how your energy shifts in specific relationships, how your dreams keep nudging you even when life tells you to be realistic. And when you start noticing, you start choosing differently. Self-awareness is not the goal, it is the gateway. It is the space between stimulus and response, where you no longer react on autopilot, but respond with clarity. And that clarity, grounded in truth, becomes your most trusted ally. Gratitude gives you peace with your past. Listening gives you precision in your present. To truly grow, you must become intimate with your inner landscape. You must learn the terrain of your own heart. You must walk the corridors of your own thoughts, not as a tourist, but as a resident. Only then can you redesign your internal world with intention, not by default. Those who do not listen inward will always chase externally. They will look for validation, for status, for distraction, anything to avoid the discomfort of stillness. But those who make peace with silence become the most powerful people in the room, because nothing within them is unresolved, and nothing outside of them has control. Listening to yourself is how you build integrity. It's how you stop betraying your own boundaries. It's how you know when to rest, when to rise, when to speak, and when to surrender. It's how you begin to trust yourself again, because you're no longer ignoring your inner signals. We were never taught this in school. We were taught how to listen to authority, to deadlines, to rules. But rarely were we taught to listen to the quiet murmur of intuition, the aching truth of misalignment, the deep pull towards something more authentic. And so, we must teach ourselves now. Every day, give yourself a moment of quiet. Not to numb, not to escape, but to inquire, to return to the truth of who you are, to notice what's alive in you, what's longing in you, what's ready to be let go. And here's the magic. The more you listen, the louder truth becomes. The easier it is to say no to things that don't serve you. The braver you become in honoring what does. Gratitude may anchor you, but listening is what steers the ship. The strongest people are not those who never break. They are those who, when fractured, learn how to listen to the break. Who don't rush to fix it, but learn from it. Who sit in the discomfort long enough to receive its message. So make it a habit. Listen without judgment. Reflect without shame. Ask without fear. And in time, you will not only know yourself, you will trust yourself. You will become unshakable not because life stops being hard, but because you've learned to hear what matters most beneath the noise. And once you hear it, you cannot forget it. You cannot abandon it. You cannot go back to living as if you didn't know. That is the moment your life begins to change, not loudly, but truthfully. Not suddenly, but deeply. Not for show, but for real. Listen deeply. Your strength is speaking. Once you've learned to listen deeply to your inner world, when silence becomes your teacher and truth your compass, there arises a new kind of strength. Not loud, not visible, but unyielding. It is the strength of standing your ground in truth, even when the world pulls you elsewhere. This is the 12th foundation of unshakable strength. The courage to stand firm in what you know is right, even when it's inconvenient, uncomfortable, or unpopular. In Idea 11, you learned the power of self-awareness through inner listening. But awareness alone is not enough. There comes a moment when what you hear inside must be honored outside, when the truth you've uncovered must be lived, not just felt. This is where integrity is forged, not in belief, but in behavior. It's easy to agree with truth in silence, much harder to live it out loud, especially when the cost is high, when others misunderstand, when resistance rises, when doubt creeps in. But this is exactly where real strength is proven, not in knowing what's right, but in choosing what's right, again and again. To stand in your truth means to stop apologizing for who you are. It means to stop shrinking yourself for the comfort of others. It means to stop abandoning your values for fleeting approval. It means to show up fully aligned, in voice, in action, in presence. And yes, it's hard. It's hard to be honest in a culture addicted to performance. It's hard to walk away from what's safe when your soul craves what's true. It's hard to hold boundaries when you've been taught that love means self-erasure. But hard is not the same as impossible. Hard is how you know it matters. Here's what they don't tell you. Sometimes your truth will cost you relationships, opportunities, comfort, but it will give you something greater: self-respect. A peace that doesn't come from getting it all right, but from knowing you didn't abandon yourself. Standing in your truth doesn't mean being inflexible. It doesn't mean arrogance or moral superiority. It means choosing authenticity over approval, choosing depth over ease, choosing values over validation, even when it's quiet, even when no one claps, even when you're the only one who sees it. Because the truth isn't always loud, but it is always loyal. It stays with you in the dark. It whispers to you when the crowd leaves. And the more you choose it, the more it becomes your foundation. Unshakable, unbending, unafraid, the person who stands in truth walks differently. They don't need to convince. They don't need to compete. They don't chase alignment. They embody it. And in doing so, they become a lighthouse, not because they shine the brightest, but because they refuse to flicker in the storm. This is not a one-time choice. It is a daily decision, a daily discipline, a quiet vow to yourself: today I will not lie to be liked. I will not bend to be accepted. I will not trade my peace for popularity. Courage is not found in grand gestures. It is found in the tiny, invisible acts of staying true when it's easier not to. And with each act, your strength multiplies. Your voice steadies. Your roots deepen. until one day you realize you're no longer living a performance. You're living your truth, and nothing is more liberating. This too is part of gratitude, idea 10. To be thankful enough for your life that you refuse to live it dishonestly. To be so grateful for who you are that you stop trying to be someone else. To be so anchored in the worth of your inner voice that no external noise can drown it. Gratitude grounded you. Inner listening guided you. Now integrity must carry you forward, not perfectly, but persistently. Because the world does not need more people who conform. It needs more people who stand. Stand when it's awkward. Stand when it's lonely. Stand when you're scared. Stand with kindness. Stand with clarity. Stand not to oppose, but to align. Stand not to win, but to witness your own becoming. And in time, the world will follow not your words, but your example. Not your speeches, but your stance. Not your proclamations, but your presence. So stand in love, stand in faith, stand in truth. Not because it's easy, but because it's right. This is how you become unshakable. One choice at a time. One stand at a time. One truth at a time. Even if your knees tremble, even if your voice shakes, stand. Because when you do, you remind the world what strength really looks like. Not dominance, but dignity. Not perfection, but presence. Not conquest, but conviction. Stand. And you will rise, not above others, but into yourself. When you've found the courage to stand in your truth, when your voice no longer trembles and your presence no longer seeks approval, you are no longer surviving your life. You are inhabiting it. But there is one final passage through which strength must flow to become transformational. Action. This is the 13th foundation of unshakable strength. Turning truth into action, aligning your values with your behaviors, and moving forward in integrity. You learned to stand your ground, but strength doesn't only stand. It moves, it builds, it creates. It does not stop at conviction. It expresses that conviction through courageous, consistent motion. To act in alignment with truth is to step into the sacred space where belief becomes embodiment. It's where what you say matches what you do. Where what you know becomes what you live. Where your ideals no longer sit safely in journals, but walk with you into boardrooms, relationships, and every ordinary moment of your day. And yes, it's easier said than done. Because action is vulnerable. Once you act, you're visible. Once you step, you risk. Once you begin, you invite both progress and pushback. But the person who acts on what they believe, even if imperfectly, is braver than the one who only speaks of change. You want to be strong? Let your steps echo your soul. Let your calendar reflect your convictions. Let your routines match your values. Let your decisions reveal your deepest knowing. Because unacted truth becomes self-betrayal, and nothing is more exhausting than living in contradiction. Inner alignment is peace, but outer alignment is power. When the inner world and outer world reflect one another, you walk through life with clarity and presence. You no longer compartmentalize your worth. You no longer silence your calling. You no longer perform one way and live another. This kind of integrity is not perfection. It is practice. It is the daily recommitment to action that serves the truth. It is saying, I will speak with honesty even when it's hard. I will build what matters even if no one understands yet. I will make decisions that reflect who I want to become, not who I've been. Because knowledge without action is just potential. Intention without motion is just a wish. Your beliefs are powerful, but only when they shape your behavior. This isn't about grand gestures, it's about daily discipline, about showing up again and again with your truth in your hands and your feet on the ground, about letting your work speak louder than your worry, your service shout louder than your self-doubt. You say you want to lead? Then live it. Show up on time. Keep your promises. Have the hard conversation. Make the brave requests. Make peace where needed. Start what you've been postponing. Finish what you've promised. Do the boring, the beautiful, the bold, because all of it is sacred when done in service of truth. This is where strength leaves the realm of the theoretical and enters the world of transformation. It's where you stop simply knowing what matters and start building it. And yes, there will be days you fall short. Days you feel like a contradiction. But don't let those moments define you. Let them refine you. Let them remind you that this is not a path of perfection. It's a path of persistence. Truth without action breeds frustration. Action without truth breeds burnout. But truth with action? That's where liberation lives. That's where your energy becomes direction. That's where your presence becomes a force. Every great movement began with a step, not a speech, not a plan. A step, taken by someone who was afraid but ready, who didn't wait for certainty but chose alignment, who didn't wait to be perfect but decided to begin. You are that someone. Let your life be a pattern of aligned movement. Let people feel your values in the way you work, the way you walk, the way you show up. Let your life speak. Because in the end, your power is not what you say. It's what you do with what you know. It's how you love, how you serve, how you build, how you rise again and again to meet the day, not with armor, but with authenticity. This is the culmination of everything before. Pain became your fuel. Gratitude became your foundation. Listening became your compass. Truth became your stance. And now, action becomes your gift to the world. So walk it, speak it, build it, become it. Let the world witness a human being who lives what they believe. And in doing so, you will become what this world so desperately needs. An example, not just an idea. Once your truth turns into action, when your values flow into your behavior and your convictions shape your calendar, you begin to shift not only your life, but the environment around you. Because the final test of inner strength is not simply what you carry within, but what you create around you. This is the 14th foundation of unshakable strength. Transforming your environment to reflect and reinforce the strength you've cultivated inside. You moved from standing to stepping, from knowing to doing. Now comes the next challenge, ensuring that the space in which you live, work, and relate supports that movement, not sabotages it. Because even the strongest roots struggle to grow in poisoned soil. Even the most disciplined mind can be worn down by toxic surroundings. Even the most awakened soul can be lulled back to sleep in the wrong environment. Your surroundings matter, not because they define you, but because they influence you every day. Quietly, consistently. Your environment can either be a mirror of your highest self, or a magnet pulling you back into old patterns. And the difference is often not dramatic. It's in the subtle. The voices you allow in, the conversations you entertain, the habits you tolerate, the spaces you inhabit, the energy you absorb. So if you want to become unshakable, you must ask, does my environment reflect the life I'm building, or the life I've outgrown? Strength is not only personal, it is relational, spatial, cultural. The spaces you live in, both physical and emotional, either hold you up or weigh you down, either invite growth or echo complacency, either nourish your vision or drain your energy. You can meditate each morning, but if your relationships are rooted in resentment, your growth will wither. You can write affirmations daily, but if your schedule is filled with distractions, your clarity will dissolve. That's why strong people don't just focus on discipline, they focus on design. They intentionally shape their world to align with who they're becoming. They clear clutter, they set boundaries, they cultivate friendships that speak life. They surround themselves with books, music, and moments that reflect what they value, not what they fear. This is not control. It is commitment. It is choosing to create a world that whispers your worth when the world outside forgets it. It is building a space so aligned with your soul that when you walk into it, you remember who you are. You want to stay consistent. Then make your surroundings sacred. Make your rituals non-negotiable. Make your boundaries known. Remove what numbs. Invite what nourishes. Let your space become a sanctuary, not just of safety, but of expansion. Because your environment is more than decor. It is declaration. It is the outer echo of your inner evolution. And the more aligned those two become, the less energy you waste in contradiction. Think of the great creators, the great leaders, the great reformers. They didn't just change themselves, they shaped the worlds around them. Gandhi didn't just fast and meditate, he gathered people, built a movement, curated a climate of courage. Marie Curie didn't just conduct experiments. She created labs and institutions that made science accessible. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't just preach from pulpits. He walked into cities, changed laws, altered the very atmosphere of public consciousness. And you? You don't need a global movement to shift your world. You just need to begin where you are. Clean the corner that reflects chaos. End the conversation that drains your hope. Schedule the routine that guards your growth. Open the window that lets in light, both literal and symbolic. Little by little, you transform your space from a place of survival into a place of strength. This is not about perfection. It's about participation. It's about no longer waiting for the world to change before you do. It's about saying, I will no longer tolerate an environment that contradicts my values. Because environments are not neutral. They are either sculpting your spirit or sedating it. They are either elevating your purpose or eroding your energy. And you get to choose. In a world that constantly demands your attention, the true revolution is intentional design. The true act of power is creating space for what you say matters. The true practice of strength is surrounding yourself with reminders, not of who you were, but of who you are becoming. Let your bookshelves echo your vision. Let your conversations reflect your values. Let your calendar display your courage. Let your home radiate the peace you fought so hard to earn. This is where action meets atmosphere, where inner power becomes outer presence, where strength stops being something you feel and becomes something you live in. So build it, curate it, declare it. Because your environment, once aligned, doesn't just support your growth, it accelerates it. And in that acceleration, you become not just strong, but sustained. Not just inspired, but anchored. Not just transformed, but transformative. This is what it means to be unshakable. Not to escape the world, but to reshape it in alignment with the truth you've worked so hard to claim.